Well, good morning, Prescott, and thank you for tuning in again, our Prescott E-News Prescott Talk Show. My name's Glenn Martin, and I am your host. And, I don't like to say good morning, Prescott, because it's Prescott and all points in between.
Yeah.
Because today's guest actually is coming up from Anthem.
Yeah.
And it's nice to hear people from all of our area. Let me try that again. Nice to hear people from all over our area. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you Dino Cotton. Dino is running for LD1.
Yes.
He is one of, how many, 5, I believe?
Well, there's 5. There's 11
candidates
statements of interest, yeah. But
So,
there's 5.
so Dino, you're in Anthem, and
Yes.
and you are actually on the city council in Anthem.
I
are you
am.
not?
Yep.
So you know what? I'm not going to talk about you. I'm going to let you talk about you.
Yeah, no, I
Dino,
appreciate that.
A lot of people who are here watching maybe not know you. Who the heck are you?
I know, you probably don't. Let's see, hi, I'm Dino. I'm from Anthem. Actually, so Anthem is part of Legislative District 1. Which camera am I looking at here? I don't know. Right in the middle there.
Well,
I'll look at you. How about that? I'll look at you. Anthem is tied into Legislative District 1, which is also Maricopa County, right? So you have Anthem, which is on the 17, like Carefree Highway, about all the way over to Carefree. So you have that whole northern Maricopa County, which is very rural. So it's not like we're living in a like a metropolis, right? I live on the side of a river. I look outside of my house. I've got donkeys. I've got, we actually had a mountain lion last year come up to our house. We have bullfrogs everywhere, and I got stung by a scorpion last year, right? So all those good Arizona. It was horrible. So we're tied up into a very odd district, but it goes all the way up to Seligman, basically northwest. So it doesn't get all the towns that are along the 17, but it's big. And the great part is that I lived in Arizona my entire life, and that I know Prescott very well, and I've come up many times, scout camps, and I've gone gold panning, and I love coming up to the area. So I've been on the Anthem Council for 3 years. I've got 4 kids. I'm married. I run my own business. I have a technology and executive recruiting company that I run, and I've done that. I started my own business in 2011. So I'm a small business owner, and I just I love Arizona and I love America. And
yeah. And you feel the want and the need to serve some.
Yeah,
office.
you asked. We were talking about it before we went on air. Is why am I running? I'm running just to be frank, and I talked about this at the Highway 69 Conservatives and Republicans meeting that we had the other night. Is I'm angry. I'm passionate. I'm mad. I'm angry, and I really care. Yeah. And I'm angry, and I'm tired of being on the defensive all the time. I feel like Republicans, we're always on our heels because someone's coming at us with something. And if you think it's just happenstance, you think it's just a matter of chance, it's not. There is a plan that other people, I was listening to a podcast on the way up here by the Arizona Republic called The Gaggle, and they were interviewing a guy named Tom Perez, who's the head of the DNC. They're trying to make Arizona a blue state.
Sure.
And they have a whole strategy played out, okay? There are very smart people in this world who are planning to bring in their political agenda. And if you think these things are by coincidence, or it's just, they're implementing that bill because it's a matter of randomness, it's not. There's a plan, and these people have a plan, and we need to have a plan.
Right.
We need to flip the script and go on the offensive.
And you're right, because I even get letters from Mark Kelly talking about how they want to, and I'm a registered Republican. I mean, you know, and I get junk mail from Mark Kelly telling me why I should vote and make Arizona blue. I mean, they've got a lot of money and a lot of saturation, and they're trying to do whatever they can. But Arizona, right here in our house, we're right on the verge of that. I mean, we're like one vote away from the majority, and we need to keep it that way. And what are you going to do to make that happen or keep that way?
I've got a whole list here. See all these papers that I brought, actually, just to keep
and
me
then
on
I throw another question, right?
Let's talk about real quick, and we'll go into guns. We'll talk about being able to protect ourselves and our families, right? And if you go look at my website, dinocotton.com, you can go and look at additional details that I have laid out there. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me, dino@dinocotton.com. I always want to make myself available. Facebook, friends at Dino Cotton, LD1 2020. You can go look at there. I'm not very active on Twitter. I don't get into that too much, so you might see an occasional post or something like that. But go ahead and look at that. But you brought up Mark Kelly. And again, he's going for U.S. Senate, and I'm not. I'm going for state. Right. And honestly, if you're watching today, state to you and me is far more important than the federal stuff because it has way more of an impact on our lives.
Correct.
Immediate, right? So throw that out there.
Politics always starts at home. And I say that over and over and over. And
it does.
You're absolutely right. Your position would affect us much more than the federal position.
Absolutely. We get tied into it because I watch the news and I always cross-compare all the news networks because I want to see who's saying what, and I like to think critically, right? I like to go, okay, I'm a grown man. I can make my own decisions. What sounds right and what sounds like a bunch of malarkey, right? So Kelly, who's running for U.S. Senate, and I feel for him because his wife got shot in the head, and that's horrible, right? It's terrible. It's a thing that why you're carrying right now, why you don't want to get shot in the head, right? No one does. But no one ever seems to talk about the guy who did it. And if you look at his mugshot, and I'm not going to say his name because everyone knows who he is. I don't want to create that. The guy was not mentally there, right? So what ends up happening is when we talk about guns, we always talk about, oh, guns bad, right? Oh, guns bad. You know, we're apes. Guns bad. Get rid of guns. But we don't talk about, okay, well, who are the people shooting? Because it's not you and me, right? And I love to be able to protect my family, right? And I'm touching the microphone. And I like to be able to protect my family. I do not have a malicious heart, right? But they say, you know, men are not angels, right? So you have to consider, we have to look at the micro details of what's going on. We have to protect our ability to protect ourselves, but we also need to make sure that we're looking at why people are doing the things they're doing and then create legislation or an idea or educate people on, hey, mental health is a real issue in our country and we don't seem to want to talk about those types of things, right? We always want to seem to talk about just the gun, right? We want to blame the tool, right? This pen could kill me, right? But it's not. Because I'm not going to do anything. You're not going to do anything, right?
They blame the inanimate object instead of the symptoms that are going behind it.
Exactly. Exactly, and that's not
But
high-level
that's part
thinking.
of the agenda, though.
It is part of the agenda, right?
They have an agenda. They have an agenda to disarm America. These people that come out and say, we just want common sense gun laws and all this other stuff.
Right.
That's all a bunch of bull. We really found out during the campaign, the Democratic campaign, how they really feel about our Second Amendment.
Right.
And I believe it was one of them that says, you're damn right we're taking your guns. Something along those lines. So you would agree with that.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
This is an agenda issue. It's an attack on our Second Amendment. It's the first attack against our constitutional right.
Right.
And they got to get rid of the Second Amendment before they can go get rid of the First Amendment, where everything starts falling apart. I don't know. I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but
I don't think you need to sound like an alarmist. I think you're a man who cares. You're a citizen of the United States, and there are people who, believe it or not, do not like America.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people. But you and I like it. We live here, and we want it to stay the same, right?
Right.
It's been doing a pretty good job for quite a while for us, so we want to be able to maintain those things. But sometimes, in order to maintain them, we can't always be on the defensive. We can't always field people's attacks, and sometimes we have to respond and retaliate, and we have to be able to put legislation intact to be able to protect those things. The fact that we just did the Second Amendment, Yavapai County Second Amendment sanctuary city. Why do we have to do that?
Yeah.
It's great that we did because we're symbolic and we're showing that we're not going to allow those things to change. But the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. It says it right there, very simply, shall not be infringed. I don't know how much more difficult that is to tell. And then someone will say, oh, it's for hunting.
Yeah.
It's not for hunting. It's not for hunting. Take a history class.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And that's the problem.
It's very clear. It's very clear.
It's absolutely
the Second
very
Amendment
clear.
is there to kill tyrants. I mean, it just pretty bold, pretty blunt.
Exactly.
That's what it's there for, so that we can remain free.
That is exactly it.
And so, yeah, no, I know we just got done doing a similar thing that failed at Prescott City Hall. And they tabled it, and they're going to come back with another version. I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but you know, there's real concern among the people who do support the Second Amendment that, you know, we elect people, and then they get downtown and suddenly they change. You know, they say, well, you know what? That really isn't bad. You know, the red flag laws were guised as school safety laws last year.
Right.
I'm sure that that's probably where they're going this year along with it. But there's some people out there that have put up a petition. It's actually something that we're having the candidates sign that if you are elected, you will not in any way support red flag laws. Would you be willing to sign something like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my friend Myrna Lieberman and Rose Sperry, you're watching out there. He just, you know, Dino just gave his website. If you could send that to him, because I'll tell you what's going to happen eventually, Dino, and this is my vision. And we haven't got anything concrete yet.
Yeah.
But as we get closer to our primaries, I'm going to have just some citizens sitting around the table, and we're going to talk about the candidates.
Great.
And it would be great to be able to say, this guy supports us, this person wouldn't sign.
Yeah.
You see where I'm
Absolutely.
going. So that, you know, this whole show is made to inform the public and let you all make that decision who you want to support.
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you, I went to the Highway 69 Republican Conservative. You guys are all good. I mean, seriously, we have some really good candidates running for LD1, and they're all passionate, heartfelt. They love Arizona.
Yeah.
They want to get in there and do a good job. But you know what? We're only going to be able to pick two. So we want to be able to get into that booth and have that informed decision when we get there. So folks, this is a great time that I can tell you, if you have any comments, questions, or anything for Dino, put them down in the comment section. If you have a question, I'll be glad to ask Dino, because he's more than willing to answer your questions online or even in the venues.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Dino, when I was there, I really didn't know you, and I said this to you off camera. This is a guy that y'all might want to start listening to a little bit, because he was really hitting on all 8 cylinders that night.
Yeah.
And whenever you're in a venue, hopefully we can get that out so the voters can come out and see what you have to say.
Yeah, I'm not there just to regurgitate info or pander to people.
Right.
I'm there to tell you about how I feel, right? And talk about those candidates.
Right.
I'm excited about the pool of people that we have running. You know, when I was running, I didn't know Quan, I didn't know Selena, Stephen, or Judy. I didn't know them. I'm sorry, Judy. Is it Judy?
Judy Burgess. Yeah.
Judy Burgess, right. I didn't know them, and I actually had dinner with Stephen the other night after the meeting, because I wanted to get to know him. He asked me, he's like, hey, let's go grab a bite. I spent some time at a seminar with Selena, and I've heard Quan talk, and I love his story. I mean, talk about gratitude, right? Being thankful for stuff. I try to preach that to my kids, because they don't want for nothing, right? They want for nothing. So they, you know, sometimes I'm like, hey, you know, if you're not going to eat your dinner, you're going to go to bed hungry, because you don't know what hunger is.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like Quan knows. Everyone cares.
Yeah.
You know, and if I don't win, if I'm not elected, that's fine. I would love to help those people out and be able to be a voice for them, especially in the lower part of the district.
Right.
And things like that. So I think we have a really good pool of people who really care, and that's what excites me about what we're doing.
Where is your candidacy right now, Dino? Last time when you were talking, you were still looking for signatures.
Oh yeah.
Are you still
absolutely.
looking for signatures?
Yes, absolutely. I need signatures. Now you can get to my signature link many ways. Now it goes to the Secretary of State website. So if you put in your information, it's the state that's covering all that stuff. Okay. So if you go to my website, dinocotton.com, right at the front, right next to the Republican logo, says my name with my family, there's a link that says, please sign my petition. If you click that link, you can go and sign it. But in order to get on the ballot, I need to have signatures, right? So we're almost there.
Yeah.
But what I found out from a couple seminars is that there are people who will sue you if you don't have enough signatures, because they will challenge you. They will challenge you. And guess what? I don't want to get sued. So please give me enough signatures to be able to get on the ballot, and I can help you out. And we can go from there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, again, I sign these petitions because, again, it's great that we all have choices when we go into the booth, you know.
Right.
It's very discouraging to me, when we have an incumbent going unchallenged. Somebody needs to be speaking. That's the way our republic works, and it makes us stronger. Would you agree?
Absolutely. In Anthem, we have a hard time getting people to run for the seats on the council. And so it's 7 people who are elected, but there it's not election by citizen, it's election by house. Mm-hmm. So you actually have one house that elects a person. And sometimes in certain areas, we can't get people to run. And I'll tell you, nothing feels better than winning in a competition than just running uncontested, because you know that you won,
right? As
opposed to just having the doors open and you walk through, So,
getting into some of the details, I know that the Highway 69, you were talking about education.
Yeah.
Last time I had Quan on, I actually had a couple questions about education. Mm-hmm. Parental choice, where do you stand on that, and where are you on making sure that the schools are funded? Big initiative by the Red for Ed guys, mm-hmm. gals. I'll let you take that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So my children, I have 4. My kids are open enrolled. It's actually kind of silly because my mornings are ridiculous. My 4 kids go to 4 different schools, and they're between the ages of 3 and 10. And they do that because there's different programs at other schools, right? So my son gets speech, so I drop him off in the morning at a place that gets speech, and then they bus him to another place where my 5-year-old is. And then they have a preschool program where they work on, critical thinking skills and teaching them about numbers and the alphabet and all that kind of stuff. And then, my other daughter goes to a school that's heavily science and technology and math. And then my other daughter goes to another school for another reason. So I am a user of school choice, right? We've looked at them going to charter schools, mm-hmm. But I wasn't ready to put them in there, and some of my kids didn't want to change schools because they like their friends. But I think our ability as parents and as family and people for school choice is very important. I think we need to be able to utilize.
What about the funding? We get a lot of the other side and concerned parents about mm-hmm. making sure that their schools are funded, the teachers' pay rates. What can the state? Where would you be at the state level on that?
So I have a whole strategy for education. So we could sit here. You got another 2 hours. So
we only have batteries for long.
I know. We're gonna run out here. We're gonna rely on one camera. Get the generator, the backup generator out.
If we all of a sudden go pop, you know what happens.
I know.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So education-wise, the thing about, and again, this is for all policy. Okay. It's for guns, mm-hmm. it's for education, it's for our water situations that happen, is you cannot look at things from here, right, to make decisions. You can't make an overarching macro decision on stuff. You have to come down, and we have to just piece every little thing out and say, this works, this doesn't work, right? Mm-hmm. The same thing, and then be able to make sure we manage and have oversight on who's handling stuff. I was talking to Mirna after the meeting the other day, and I brought up this. I said, if you gave me $1 million right now, and you said, Dino, get really muscular and buff, go mm-hmm. out and get in shape, would that money guarantee that I would get big and buff? No, because money does not equal results, mm-hmm. right? So when we make choices in legislation that say, money, okay, good grades, that doesn't make any sense, right? So you can't do that. That's not realistic. It's not using fact. It's not based in reality, right? We seem to be leaving reality a lot lately and coming up with the Green New Deal and all this kind of wild stuff. We have to make very, well thought out choices on stuff. Education. It starts with the districts, right? Now, first of all, we need to look at what other states do that makes them successful mm-hmm. and try to mimic as much as we possibly can from those things, right? With everything. Mm-hmm. The people who are doing it better, talk about football. I love the Cardinals. My Cardinals, I love them, right? We got to look at what are the Patriots doing every year to be so successful? Mm-hmm. How can we mimic that? And that's what those sports teams do. That's why they hire so many Patriots coaches for football. Right. Sorry if you don't follow football, but that's a good example. We need to be able to do that. Second of all, we need to be able to create an environment where Arizona is the most attractive state for good teachers, okay? Mm-hmm. We can't just say, oh, you're a teacher, you have a pulse,
great,
go teach our kids,
yeah.
right? It doesn't work like that, right? So how do we make that attractive? we have to be able to come up with our budgets and how we're funding money. Now, one thing that I'd like to see change, and again, I'm not a professional. I have a recruiting company, but I hear a lot about things. My kids are in the schools. I talk to people on the boards of education, is that when they create budgets and they give a budget, say they give the sports, the physical education department a budget, they give arts a budget, they give general education a budget, they give maintenance a budget, they give special education a budget. They all create these silos. They say, okay, your budget district for this year is going to be $500,000. Use that money as you will to fund what you have. So the districts, they create within their hierarchy, they create a budget and they do things with that money. What happens when they only spend $400,000 of that $500,000?
Yeah. Where does the surplus go?
Well, the $100,000 goes back in the pot. Well, what happens with the psychology of human nature? Well, if we don't use that $100,000, we're going to lose it.
We're going to lose it. Yeah.
So what are we going to do with it then? Well, what can we buy?
Yeah.
What can we buy? Oh, well, I did see that one new thing over there. We could go do that. Instead of taking that money and going, okay, we've created a specific budget that was oversought and looked at from a higher level. We've approved it. Now we have this extra money. Now let's see what we can take from this and give the teachers.
Shiny objects.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So the first initial reaction is don't just say we need more money first. We have to evaluate and look at how the money's being spent, how it's being allocated. Did you know that within the districts of Arizona, there is a 70% discrepancy in starting teacher salaries?
No, I did not know that.
So the lowest paying district in the state, their starting teacher gets 70% less than the highest paying district in the state, but we're the state, right?
Yeah.
So all those districts are being allocated by who's paying the property tax. So the richest, Scottsdale,
Yeah.
Scottsdale Paradise Valley, well, they pay the highest in property taxes. So their schools generally going to get the more money, right? But what about up here in Prescott, right?
Yeah.
Oh, our property taxes are lower, so we get not as much funding. So if we're talking about making decisions from a state level perspective, and we're talking about how we're going to fund that and channel that money, we have to be able to do a better job at allocating funds and making decisions.
See where it's going, and I think I like your idea of looking at what the other people are doing to be successful.
Absolutely.
Just like when I look at a lot of the charter schools, it seems the scores are better coming out of charter schools. So why isn't the public system looking at going to charter school and say, what are you guys doing to make that happen?
Right, absolutely.
I mean, it would be like a common sense question, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Charter schools are unique because some charter schools are run differently than other charter schools, right? There's a charter school in Anthem called Anthem Prep, and they offer a classical education where they teach the kids about the Constitution and the founders of America.
Go figure.
Great. How great is that? But then there are some schools that don't do that, right? But there's charter schools, and the charter schools are kind of in a weird Wild West point right now where we need to address regulation, because what we don't want to have happen is abandon the public school system and that everyone gets left behind, right? And then that we're just, it's like, oh, the new flavor is the charter schools.
Right.
We have to be able to look and make the best decisions for each thing, regardless of whether their process or their structure is different.
Any teachers or anybody out there wanting to question Dino about any of his ideas or comments about education, feel free.
Yeah.
We'll probably get this on a Saturday afternoon after this has all been recorded.
I know, people are going to talk about how they don't like what I said, right?
Like a lot of times I would ask you to go back and look at this show, and some people do put comments down or questions. You might want to go back and answer those questions.
I would love
online.
to. Yeah, I watch all your shows.
FYI.
I watch all of them. So
you're the guy.
I'm the one guy. It's that when it says one viewer, it's this guy.
I found my one viewer.
Oh, I appreciate that.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. We had an article came out the other day, and it's about dreamers. And our current representative, Noel Campbell, has kind of gone against the current in the conservative world, and said that he would support giving the dreamers who came over with their families as young children the same tuition price as a Arizona resident, even though they do not have legal status in the country. How would you feel about that?
So it's interesting. So what first got me was when you were using the word dreamers, and I always find it very interesting in politics, because I'll tell you right now for your viewers, I am not a politician. I'm just a guy who cares? Okay, so when I hear words like dreamers, or I hear words like the Patriot Act, remember when the Patriot Act came?
Oh, yeah.
And they said, we got to pass it. Are you not a patriot? Oh, I'm a patriot.
Of course I am.
Okay, well then we're going to spy on you, and
Yeah,
we're going to look at
exactly.
everything that you do, right? Oh, well, you like affordable health care, right?
Well,
Oh,
when did you
here's the
stop
affordable
beating
hair-
dogs, Dino?
I know, right? Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
exactly.
Oh. So, you know, the thing with the dreamers is that's a political pandering tool to assign a name to something that might not be as attractive, right? So here's what you have. You have illegal aliens, illegal immigrants who come into the country illegally, and they have children, which is the goal, right? So when you had you know, large donors that were paying and funding people to come up in that migrant caravan, if you or I decided to walk, by the way, from the southern border of Mexico to Arizona, and no one helped us, would we live?
No.
We would not. We would not live.
1,500 miles, try that someday.
Yeah, so how did all those
we'll
people
find your
survive?
remains
Well,
out in
because
the
someone
desert.
was funding them, right? So the other thing, dreamers, I would probably avoid calling them dreamers. That's what it's kind of come up to be, but it's people whose parents came over here and then they were born here. We've got to figure out immigration on a really large scale. It's like, what do we do with everybody who's here, right? I like to take classes. I like to take classes at ASU and community college in my area because I just like to continue learning about things. I took a combustion engine theory class at Glendale Community College because I wanted to learn how to work on my '79 Jeep CJ7, right? And I like doing those things. And what I find is that sometimes I take a class online and the pricing is not state tuition pricing. I want to take an online ASU class and I have to pay $2,200 for a class the same as a person in Texas. So first of all, tuition rates. We shouldn't probably be making exceptions for people based off of their non-immigrant or the non-citizenship status before we figure out how we can best help the people who are in the country be able to be educated, right?
Gotcha.
Now, if you're here and you're not leaving, then we need to be able to figure out how to get people educated properly.
Right.
So that's a whole other stance. So I don't have all the details, I don't have all the information, but I think that we need to look at certain things from a different perspective and say, okay, what's the actual real circumstance? What's the effect here?
Right.
And then what's the long-term outcome that we're going to be able to come up with something of a good solution? I guess.
Gotcha. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about, and we're going to kind of go into the climate change for a moment, but before we do that, we have this beautiful area here in Prescott that's called the Granite Dells. Yeah. And there's a lot of work going on within the city to have 500 acres of open space in exchange for annexation with the AED, which is a developer here. Along with that, Noel Campbell, again, has proposed a regional park, which would be on the east southern side, better known as Storm Ranch today.
Yeah.
The Storm family has offered a reasonable price and to acquire that land and make it into a regional park. Where would you sit on that?
So one of the things that I have been doing in Anthem is that we have a situation in Anthem, and I'll give you this example. There is a developer who owns land in New River Wash. So we have a dry creek bed. It's very large, called the New River Wash. They own enough, I think it's something over 40 acres of land in the New River Wash. They want to build 170 houses in it. Well, I have video that river fills all the way up to the brim during a storm, right? So now they own that land, and I am all for property rights. If I own my land, I can do as I will with it, right? So if that developer owns that land, however, sometimes we need to be able to make a decision for the greater good, right? And go, okay, wait a second. Do we rezone that property, right? Do we go from an S1, which is 1 house per acre, to an S3, which is high density housing, which is 3 houses per acre? Or do we feather it out or whatever? Because we don't want to just tell you, no, you can't, government, big brother, right? You can't do those things. Now, for the Dells, Dells are beautiful. It's our civic duty, I think, as people who are elected into positions, and even like yourself, who's not elected, you're just a citizen who wants to help and who wants to. It's kind of our duty to be able to protect nature and to protect those types of things. So, if I'm a developer, I'm looking at developing this land and going, this is going to be premium land with a really great side view. The scary part is that they can kind of hold you hostage a little bit for how much they're going to be able to buy that land from them.
Right.
So you need to be able to come up with a solution to make everybody happy, right? Because those developers, they're in business to be able to build and
That's
create
correct.
jobs and to be able to make money, right? At the same time, we don't want to sacrifice nature.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with that whole situation. I think that Noel's coming up with a great solution. I'd like to see where it goes.
Yeah, well, the actual negotiation with the developer is with the city of Prescott. So what we're really looking at is the state answer is in the preserve itself.
Yeah.
And that is privately owned by a family who is not wanting to develop it, but is willing to give it for a good price, but not an outrageous price.
Right.
To sell it to the city of, sell it to the state of Arizona and the city of Prescott. The city of Prescott would actually be overseeing it.
Yeah.
It's right around, I think it was like $5.5 million coming from the state. Noel's really dug his heels in and says, look, we want this money, we want to preserve it. So you would be in agreement with that?
Yeah, I think if you can create a scenario where all sides are successful, right, and everyone gets to leave with something, right? We want to be able to preserve our environment. And
Wouldn't it be nice to leave a better world than what we came into?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's what all of our goals are.
Right.
As dads, we want our kids to be better off than what we were, and
that's why I'm
and
here.
I think yeah, exactly. That's why you're running. I mean, we kind of talked about that too.
That's it.
These guys are not politicians. They're citizens who said, you know what, I see something that needs to be changed or done, and I think I have good answers to it.
Yeah.
And you guys all the candidates, put yourself out there in front of the public, an open book. You're open for both praise and criticism, and just tell the truth and where you feel, and let the people make the decision. Right?
Absolutely. And for people who are watching, and if maybe you disagree with any of the points that I brought up, I am a person who likes to live in a world of facts, right? And not necessarily feelings and opinions. But if you have data that you want to present to me, I am always open to changing an opinion on something, because the more information that I have, that's why a thing about me, Glenn, is that I don't like to make knee-jerk reactions to stuff, right? I like to think about stuff, sit and watch, and wait and see what happens, right? I don't like to just be able to go, oh, that happened? Let's make a quick rash decision, and then later on I'm going to be regretful over it, right? Yeah. Like you think about, you brought up marijuana earlier. What do? Well, you look at all the aspects of marijuana, right? The people want to pass it locally because there's lobbying for it, and there's additional funding that would go to funding schools, and that's money for stuff like that. But at the same time, there are negative aspects of being able to legalize recreational marijuana, right? So what I would do is I'd say, okay, what other states have already legalized it? I want to see, before I make any decisions, what the outcomes are from those places, right? Did it increase their homeless population tenfold? Is there an increase in crime, right? Is there a certain ratio of children getting hooked on drugs because of that legalization, right? Are there outcomes that we are not ready to sacrifice for the tax dollars? Because if that's the case, then the tax money is not worth it.
What a great segue. I was just going to ask you. Where do you stand on recreational marijuana?
Yeah, I'll tell you, my grandmother, 20 years ago, died of lung cancer from cigarettes. She smoked cigarettes. And it was very painful for me. And I remember at the time they did not allow legalized marijuana. And I remember watching her, and she was in pain. And I am all in immediate support for anything that will help people who are in pain ease that pain, because I've been in pain before. I've recovered from surgery, and I've had things that were miserable, and I understand. I want to be empathetic, and I want to understand people's plight, and I'm not rigid, and so I'm for those things. But I think that's a much easier choice to make than when it comes to recreational activities, right? So I think we need to be very diligent in looking at every aspect of that, how our neighbors and the people who are doing it are affected, what the outcomes are, and then make an educated decision based off of those details.
And your educated decision? I'm putting you in a corner, man.
On this?
Yes.
Well,
yes or no?
Just to be honest with you, it's not looking good from what I've seen from Denver alone. I love going to Denver. Denver is so beautiful if you ever go up there. It doesn't seem to be doing well. So, I mean, again, I'm open to opinions, and I'm open to information. So if someone can present to me reason otherwise, then I'm all for listening. That's why God gave me these big ears, right? So I want to be able to listen to everything that people have to say.
Okay. Let's go to climate change. That'll be our last subject, just so you
sure,
know.
because these things are dying. Are they on still?
No, yeah, they're still going on. We still got some time, but yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit about climate change. You brought that up prior to coming on the show.
Yeah.
Your opinions.
Again, climate change is one of those things when I was talking about the dreamers, right? Assigning words to stuff. So what ends up happening is like, there are very smart people in this world who weaponize words, okay? Like if you say, Dino, I think you're doing something wrong, mischievous. And I can say to you, Glenn, you're a conspiracy theorist. And now you're on your heels because you're going, oh, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. You know, oh, but he's the bad guy and I'm calling out something good, right? But I'm a conspiracy theorist now? Oh man, now I'm in this bucket, right? And so climate change is very similar. I think in order we talk about changing the temperature on the earth, which is pretty big, right? Give us trillions and trillions of dollars so we can change the Earth's temperature. Let's look at how we can maybe stop polluting. And we can look at maybe waste. Like, have you ever watched videos of the rivers in India or China that are pouring with trash? Did you know there's an island of garbage in the Pacific Ocean that's larger than France? Right? Have you ever seen them pull straws from turtles' noses?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about what you and I are doing to pollute the environment. I think we've got it pretty good here in America compared to other countries.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I feel like everyone likes to point it at us because we have the military and the financial power, but maybe it's sometimes we got to look at where are the other things, because we are all together in this and the world is getting smaller as the internet and technology, and I can fly to the other side of the world in less than a day, right? Climate change, you know, I think we need to change what we're talking about with that and stop giving into the pandering of a political party and start looking at, okay, how can we stop polluting? How can we stop wasting stuff? People are, you know, in Australia, everyone was saying climate change, the fires in Australia. Well, they actually arrested like over 90 people for arson.
Yeah.
Well, why isn't that being talked about more? Why are people jumping on the
narrative?
Yeah, and then I love the political activists or the climate activists who are getting on those big jumbo jets and flying those guys all over the world, and then they tell me that, you know, I'm driving down the street to the grocery store. I'm the one.
Shame on you.
Yeah, shame on me. So I'm tired of that. I'm tired of being on the defensive, and I'm tired of saying that I'm sorry for something that I shouldn't be sorry for.
Isn't that why our president pulled us out of the climate change summit? You know, they wanted to put all these restrictions on the United States, which is one of the cleaner, more environmentally clean countries, and allow countries like China and Korea and some of the big polluters to just keep on polluting. So, you know, it's time that we stop saying, you know what, you guys change your way. We'll continue to work on a cleaner, more effective energy sources, but there's a whole lot of other kettles that need to be called black before they turn to us and say, we're going to tax you to clean everything.
Money does not equal results, right?
Same thing with schools. The school, we go right back to the school.
Absolutely.
We are one of the least funded schools is Arizona. Yeah. But where do we stand with the result? Where do we stand with our tests, our SAT tests within the country? Right there in the middle. Right in the middle. Right. But our budgets are down here. Yeah. So you know what? We're doing something right.
We have a lot of great things that we're doing great. And I'm going to be honest with you, like my kids' teachers are fantastic, and they listen and they care. My wife works in the school district. She's an occupational therapist. She works with kids with special needs. Yeah. That woman's passion, she comes home every night and she works more. And she's always very focused and driven on helping the kids. They all are. Yeah. So we need to be able to support those people, those professionals who are in those environments, help them get better, attract people who are great, be able to create a good livelihood for them, and then be able to help our kids so that, you know what, they have a solid education that they can get up, grow up, and get older, and then continue to make educated decisions for Arizona, and then stop allowing us to go to the wayside. You know? You know, you're a really interesting guy to interview and talk to. Oh, I appreciate it. I'm so appreciative that you came up here and took the time to come on the show and talk about your views, and hopefully we'll see you more out there. I hope so. If you ever have an event, if there's any more events, I mean, you and Myrna told me about this, and you know, I think you reached out, right? And you actually on the interview with Quan, you said, "Hey Dino, if you're watching," and I'm like, "I'm watching. I should probably."
Hey, Dino, you might want to come down here. Anyway.
And I did that, so I appreciate those things. So thank you so much.
You know, I'm going to let you close out the show. That's your camera right there. Why don't you tell the folks why they should support and vote Dino Cotton for LD1?
Absolutely. I'm an American. Been in Arizona my whole life, and I love this state. I love my family. I love being able to guarantee that they're safe. I love their protection. I love everything about this place, and I want to be able to continue taking the knowledge that I've gained in my life and help it move forward. But also I think about businesses, I think about tax reform and making those little decisions to make Arizona better. And I want to be able to help it become the best state possible, while we can also say no to things. You know, the 1625 SB thing that just happened. You know, how could that be something that's presented? And it's scary to me when those things are.
That's the assault rifle bill. Yeah.
Again, words, assault rifle, it's actually Armalite. AR stands for, it doesn't even stand for assault rifle, but people like to change things to make you be scared of them, right? So, you know, we didn't talk a lot about taxes and stuff like that, but I have ideas for tax reform. Removing tax penalties from small businesses and independent contractors. So say, for example, if you're a small business and you have to pay an estimated tax payment every year, every quarter, and it's supposed to be 90% of what you made last year. And if you don't pay that, of what you made 90% last year, you'll get a fine at the end of the year. Now, as a small business owner, I don't know what I'm going to make this year. I would love to be able to estimate what I'm going to make in 6 months, but I don't, right? So why penalize me for for having to get rid of my capital to be able to maybe feed my kids, hire a new person, put money back into the economy, things like that. So again, going back, small decisions that affect the overall overarching elements of stuff. We need to be focused, we need to look at things with fact, and we need to be able to ask the people who know the most about stuff questions and then create really solid solutions and not just assume that we know everything. Because I'll tell you right now, I don't know everything. I really don't. I love to learn. I love to hear people from people who know more about stuff. And you know, if you elect me to be your representative for LD1, I won't stop listening, and I will do everything in my power to make the best decisions for all of us. And that can be hard, but I'm looking forward to doing it.
Yeah. Well, believe me, we'll have you back again. We'll get into PSPRS. And
let's go.
We only had so much time today.
I know, geez.
Yeah, the people out there are going, hey, man, it's lunchtime. But anyway.
I know.
So anyway, thank you so much again. I appreciate you coming
Anytime.
out.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to close the show out always thanking our military, past and present, for allowing us to be able to sacrifice yourself so that we can come here and talk at the table and talk about what's good for Arizona, what's good for our country. We appreciate your service, and we do. You know, again, we can't say enough for our prior and current serving military. Our police and fire department, thanks guys and gals, you keep our streets safe.
Absolutely.
We always have the support behind you as well. Don't ever think that what you see on the news is reflective of what the citizens of Prescott believe, because we love you guys and we're right there with you. So until next week, hey, y'all have a really nice Valentine's Day. I hope you get out there and take your significant other to dinner somewhere, you know, and enjoy, build up the economy a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And we'll see you next Friday. I will have Willie Klein, he is a candidate for the Board of Supervisors, District 2. And then we have a double header because actually we're going to come back on the air at noon and have Mary Mallory, District Supervisor, current serving for District 5, and she's going to talk about her campaign run as well.
I'll be watching.
So cool, great. Until then, thank you so much, Prescott. Appreciate you tuning in.